This video is Chapter 11, Question 1. We will be looking at cost allocation depreciation with different types of depreciation methods. On January 1st, year 1, the Fab Delivery Company purchased a delivery van for $43,350. At the end of its 5-year service life, it is estimated that the van will be worth $4,500. During the 5-year period, the company expects to drive the van 105,000 miles. And we're required to calculate annual depreciation for the 5-year life of the van using each of the following methods. And we'll round all our computations to the nearest dollar. So we'll be looking at straight line, sum of years digits, double declining balance, and units of production, and we'll see them each on all the following slides. We'll start with straight line depreciation first. And the formula for straight line depreciation, if you recall, is cost minus residual value divided by estimated useful life. And that gives us our yearly depreciation or annual depreciation expense. So looking at the problem here, we can determine that our cost is $43,350 because it tells us that's how much they purchased the van for. So let's plug that in for our cost. And we're subtracting our residual value, which is also given in the problem. It tells us at the end of its 5-year service life, it is estimated that the van will be worth $4,500. So that's our residual value. So we're subtracting that. And then our estimated useful life is also clearly given in the problem. It says 5-year service here, and it says during the 5-year period. So we know it's a estimated useful life of 5 years. And that's what we'll divide by. So 43,350 minus 4,500 gives us 38,850 divided by 5 years gives us 7,770 depreciation expense per year. So now we come down to this table to figure out how much we are depreciating each year and what the book value at the end of each year is. We also, you'll see, have the straight line rate. And the straight line rate is determined by taking the year divided by the total number of years. So in this case of straight line, it's just 1 year each year that we're depreciating. So you take 1/5, and that's going to give you 20%. So that's our straight line rate. So we start with our depreciable base, which is the 43,350 minus 4,500. That tells us how much of that purchase we're depreciating. The rest is our residual value. So we multiply that by our straight line rate, and that also gives us 7,770. And that's going to be the same for each one under straight line depreciation. And if we add all these up, this is going to equal our depreciable base, 38,850. So now let's just determine what the book values are at the end of each year. So we are subtracting 7,770 each at the end of each year from the book value. So we started with a book value of 43,350. We subtract 7,770, and that gives us our in year 1 book value to be 35,580. We go on next year. We subtract the in year 1 book value minus depreciation expense in year 2. And that's going to give us 27,810. On to year 3, we subtract 7,770 minus 27,810. That gives us an end year 3 book value of $20,040. Year 4, subtract the in year 3 book value minus depreciation expense. 12,270 is the end book value. And last, for year 5, we subtract 7,770 minus 12,270, and that's going to give us 4,500, which is a good check because that's where our residual value is. So at year 5, your book value should tie with your residual value, $4,500. Next, we'll take a look at sum of years digits. And the formula for that is our depreciable base, 38,850, times the number of years remaining divided by the sum of years digits. And here's the formula for it. So let me show you quickly how we solve for that to get our denominator to be 15. So you take n, which is our number of years. So that's 5. So we have 5 for n, 5 plus 1, divided by 2. So we have 5 plus 1, which is 6, divided by 2 is 3, multiplied by 5, and that gives us 15 for our denominator for sum of years digits. So now what we'll do is each year we'll take our depreciable base and multiply by the depreciation rate per year, which is the number of years remaining divided by 15. So starting in year 1, we still have all 5 years remaining. So that's our rate. We'll multiply that by 38,850, and that's going to give you depreciation for that year of 12,950. And then we'll subtract 12,950, our year 1 depreciation, minus our beginning book value, which is the purchase price, 43,350, and that's going to give us our end year 1 book value to be 30,400. Moving to year 2, we again take our depreciable base, multiply it by the depreciation rate for that year, and this time there's only 4 years left, so that's our numerator. Depreciation for that year will then be 10,360. We subtract that from the year 1 book value, and we'll get $20,040. For year 3, we have 3 years left. Multiply that by depreciable base and get 7,770 for depreciation for that year. So that gives us a book value after subtracting from year 2, 12,270. In year 4, we only have 2 years left. That gives us a depreciation for that year of 5,180. We subtract that from the year 3 end book value and we get 7,090. And in year 5, we only have the 1 year left. We subtract our depreciation from the end book value, 2,590, and that gives us 4,500, which again ties to our residual value. And then if you add up all the depreciation expense, it's going to equal our depreciable base, 38,350. So one thing to note with sum of years digits is you see the depreciation is higher in the earlier years and then decreases each year versus straight line where it's the same each year. Next, we'll look at the double declining balance method. The formula for that is the beginning of year book value times 200% divided by the estimated useful life. So, and this will be our depreciation rate. So we'll take 200% divided by 5, which is our estimated useful life, and that's going to give us 40% for our depreciation rate per year. You can see we've plugged that in here. So we start with the beginning of year book value. So of course in year 1 it's going to be our purchase price, 43,350, and that's going to give us our depreciation amount for year 1, and that's going to be 17,340. We'll subtract that from the beginning of year book value to get $26,010 for our end of year book value, which will then become our year 2 beginning balance. Multiply that by 40%, you get 10,404. And then subtracting that from the beginning balance, you'll get 15,606. That becomes our beginning. And then multiplying that by 40%, you get 6,242, which will then yield an end book value of 9,364. Make that our beginning for year 4 times 40% gives you 3,746, and subtracting that will give you an end book value of 5,618. It becomes our beginning here. We multiply that by 40%, and that is going to give us a number that's actually going to be a depreciation amount that's too high because it will take us below the residual value of 4,500. It's going to give us 2,000 247, which would take us below 4,500. So what we need to do is take 5,618, subtract 4,500 to figure out how much to depreciate for year 5. So 5,618 minus 4,500 gives us 1,118. We'll put that in for year 5, and that's going to give us our end value of 4,500. And over here with our depreciation, this again as a check always adds up to our depreciable base, which is 38,850. The last depreciation method we'll look at is units of production. The numerator is the same as straight line depreciation, cost minus residual, but this time we'll divide by estimated units of production, and that's given in the problem. It's 105,000 miles that they expect to drive the van. So we'll take our cost minus residual, 43,350 minus 4,500, divided by estimated units of production, 105,000. That's going to give us our depreciation rate per mile, and that's going to be 37 cents. So that's what we're going to multiply by the total miles each year. See, we're also given in the problem the number of miles driven each year. So we'll multiply that by our 37-cent rate to get our depreciation for that year. So let's go ahead and plug in our 37 cents here. So in year 1, we'll take our 21,700 miles, multiply it by 37 cents, and we'll get a depreciation for that year of $8,029. We subtract that from our beginning book value, which was 43,350, and that's going to give us an end year 1 book value of 35,321. Moving to year 2, we have 24,500 miles driven. We multiply that by the depreciation rate of 37 cents, and that gives us a depreciation for year 2 of $9,065. We subtract that from the end year 1 book value, and that's going to give us a book value of $26,256. On to year 3. Miles are 15,200 multiplied by 37 cents. That's going to give us a depreciation of 5,624. Subtract that from the year 2 book value, and you get 20,632 for the end year 3 book value. Year 4, 20,700 miles times 37 cents gives you 7,659. And subtracting that from the year 3 end book value gives you 12,973. Here in year 5, we need to be careful. There's 25,900 miles. We multiply that by the 37 cents, and that gives us a depreciation of 9,583. But we can't use that because if we subtracted that from our book value at the end of year 4, that would give us an amount lower than the residual value that needs to be left, 4,500. So we won't depreciate this much, so what we'll do is we'll take the end year 4 book value, subtract 4,500 to figure out how much to depreciate for that year to make sure that the end total is 4,500. That's going to give us 8,473. So we'll plug that in for year 5, 8,473. We add up each year's depreciation. It again equals our depreciable base. And we plug in that final book value, which should be 4,500.